Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to Intelligentleman, the show that talks about what it is to be a man and how to hopefully become a better man, which is one of my goals. One of the things that I like to strive for myself. Um, so, therefore, I like to talk about things that do just that, that help you to become a better you. Uh, and I bring a lot of my friends on and uh, talk about issues that pertain to our communities and you know us in general. Um, and as you can see, today I got my sweater on, my my tux, looking just kind of fresh to death when it comes to that. Um, but yeah, so you know, um, yeah. So today we're not gonna do anything too long. I know I say that sometimes and I still go long, but we're not gonna try to stay too long. Today is my birthday. I'm blessed to see 39 years and to be able to still be here to say that, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for you all. I'm thankful for the support. And please, if you're watching this video, go like the page. Um, Leave some feedback, leave some comments on the videos. Go back and look at some other ones. Also, find the links to the podcast on your favorite platform, and you can listen to it. But you know, again, today's episode is going to be about politics. We're gonna be politicking a little bit. Just kind of talking about what it is and you know how it affects us and what we should do about it, right? Um, because in today's day and age, I think it's very important that we do become um, a part of the process. So, first, I just want to start off with the definition. What is politics? What is politics? So, I'm going to read the definition. Politics is the set of activities that are associated with making decisions in groups or other forms of power relations between individuals, such as the distribution of resources or status. The academic study of politics is referred to as political science. So if you're studying uh, politics, then you're a political scientist, right? Um, because it's a very deep subject. It's not just something that's what you see and what you kind of do once a year, twice a year. Um, it's a deep subject because it affects every facet of life as we know it, right? Because you're talking about those power relations between individuals in a group, groups making decisions. Sometimes not groups, right? Sometimes individuals making decisions for groups, right? Which is something that you don't really want that. You don't want that, right? We don't want one person making a decision for an entire group. Why? Because that's not representative of everyone, and you want to be as inclusive as possible when it comes to these things because um, everybody's not going to feel the same way about something. And the more people you have in the decision making process, the better because that makes it where, um, it's distributed. Like I said, like the definition said, whether it's status or resources, those things can be distributed amongst those whom the group feels uh, needs those resources or that status, right? Um, and so having a equal representation is very important in politics. Um, so, you know, I'm just kind of sharing out some things and changing a few settings or whatnot. But, ultimately, you want to be a part of this process because it does affect you. It affects, things that you probably wouldn't even think about if you don't follow politics and you don't really try to study it in that way, um, such as what you eat. You know, uh, these institutions that are in power, that decide what's okay and what's not okay, is part of that political process, through representation of, through the leaders who run these organizations that are put into these positions by the people who we elect to be in power. Okay, so that's part of the process, right? So that's something that you want to consider as you, go to the ballots and cast your vote and make your voice heard and talk about these things amongst, the community and so on and so forth. You want to be cognizant of that it there's whatever is important to you, which should be pretty much everything dealing with, your health, your education, um, your social political status, um, issues in the society. I mean, all these things can be addressed through this way, but it takes effort and it takes work, to be completely honest. I mean, it takes a lot of work for us to go through these things and actually you know uh, make the changes that may need to be done. Okay. Um, so I just want to talk about a few things that pertains to, politics and what you should be looking at now, right? I'm gonna bring it into right now. Okay, so we're in Georgia. Okay, Georgia's runoff election is in January, January the 5th, right? January the 5th is when the runoff election is. Um, if you don't know what a runoff election is, then please, somebody get the definition, put it in the chat for everybody, okay? We're not going to go into detail for everything, but just know that Georgia's runoff election is January 5th. Uh, you can vote early, okay? Early in-person voting started, uh, I believe, uh, early in, early voting started on the 14th, and so and it lasts until the 31st of December, excuse me. So you have those 15, 16 days, um, to vote in person. Early voting. Um, if you haven't requested a mail-in ballot by tomorrow, then you should plan to vote in person, either during the early voting or on January 15th, which is the election day. Okay. Um, so those are some of the things. That's just some of the basics of, basic timeline of, when you should be thinking about voting, right? Um, you know, and one of the sites and organizations that I like to look to for this type of information is Fair Count. I actually, during the tailgate, for uh, a high school here in Columbus that I used to attend, and that is a very very popular event. They had a booth set up there, you know, Carver High. Shout out to Carver. Um, they had a booth set up out there where I met some young men who were working for the organization and passing out information and shirts uh, about early voting. Now, this was way back before the primary uh, or the presidential election, right? Um, so they were pushing hard for that, but also making people aware of these other times of voting that come up throughout the year for you to vote for your state and local government officials, right? So let's talk about that for a minute. So you got three levels of government, right? Kind of on a macro scale. You know, you got the federal, the state, and then you have your local governments, right? We all know what the federal is: presidential. Uh, you got the judicial, and then you have the Congress, right? So you got these, elements of the government that people are voted into the office and so on and so forth at different times, and you know um, and like I said, we're not going to get too deep into it because I want to keep this one pretty light today. I know everybody's spending time with their families, or they may be traveling, or what have you. Hey, what's up, Ebony? Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, I try to, I can clean up pretty well when I choose to. But yeah, so that's basically in a nutshell. So you got those levels of government in the federal. Um, Now, when you elect those officials, they talk, they bring in people to head certain portions of the government, right? Those are not elected officials. Those are chosen officials by the elected officials, right? So, like for instance, William Barr, uh, you know, uh, that so he was brought in by Trump, right? So when Biden comes in, he can name his, which I think Barr resigned. So you know they're gonna have to bring somebody in, and so he'll bring somebody in, and so on and so forth. So they have these powers. So those are the types of things you need to think about as you're voting for your officials. You need to research them first and foremost so that you understand their decision making process, because how they think is how they will choose the leadership of these organizations. So if they're bringing somebody in to run, you know, this, then that they're going to go for a person that's either this way or that way, right? And we're going to stay bipartisan. We're not going to name any parties, because my philosophy is that I I believe in the whatever is good for the people. So I don't really go by political affiliations and stuff like that. I go by who is actually going to do what's needed for the people. That's my political opinion, right? So that's how I make my decisions about anything when it comes to leadership, politically. And so I'm open to hear anything from anybody, but I don't want you know someone who's just going to talk about something is not going to actually do what they want to do, or what they say that they're going to do, rather. So that's another thing, right? So yeah, so that's what you want to think about. You want to think about that as you're going to the polls, and you're casting your vote. You want to be looking at these people, and you want to see, like, hey, what are they doing? What are their causes? What do they feel like is important? You know, um, are they, do they feel like what affects me is important to them? And that can give you some some insight into how you should cast your vote, right? Because you should go by what's important to you. Each individual should do that. And as you count it all together, then it speaks to, what what the people want, right? And that's how it represents what the people want. That's how it should represent what the people wants. Um, and also another thing I wanted to talk about. So that's federal, and then you got state, right? Which is coming up, right? So you got the Georgia runoff that's coming up. Um, that's where um, it's gonna talk about, you're gonna elect some of your state officials, okay? And so that's very important too, because, and I'm gonna make this example because as we know, there's federal, state, and local governments. And each one has its own authority and limits. Um, Typically, the federal doesn't really, the federal really imposes broad, sweeping limits. The state usually has more power when it comes to deciding what happens inside of that state. The state government does, and then the local government is the last level that has like a say so into what happens in local, but it's only within that local area. And so, when you're thinking about that and you think, okay, so who's going to and I'll give you a perfect example, like when the pandemic hit and, the state level issued an order, all of the local um, had to follow that order, right? Um, Meaning, they legally they had to follow it, but, of course, being in a democratic, country, you know, we always have the ability to agree or disagree, or agree to disagree, right? And go from there. We all have to use our own, you know, common sense and decision making processes to do what's best for. And typically that's how the relationship goes. They rely on the people whom, you have, you delegate, right? So like, which is something that, when you're in leadership, that's big, right? Even if you're running a company, delegation is very, very important because you know that you can't do everything by yourself, and you really need that team, right? So, the local government is like the team for the state is like the team for the federal, right? So usually when it comes down that way, you give people, discretion, you know, to be able to make their decisions based off of what's best locally. And it should be like that. It should be an open discourse throughout the whole power structure to be flexible enough to be able to go with whatever's needed for the people at that particular time. And of course, we know this recent time was was unprecedented, right? So, we never really had a pandemic like that come through, and disrupt everything the way that it did, even though there has been in the past. They're saying that this one was worse than, most of the ones that did come, as far as that's concerned. But, you know so, you know sometimes, you kind of got to improvise. You got to make these decisions on the fly and everything. So it's a very, it's one of those things where you have to respect the person who's in that position, because it's a lot of responsibility. Therefore, there should be a lot of thought that goes into naming someone for that position, because it is a big responsibility, right? So we should all take that very seriously, and we should all take our responsibility to choose these people very seriously as well. Um, you know, so that's kind of how, federal, state, and local kind of plays out. And most people, who's probably watching this know that already, right? They already know that. So this is not, and again, this is not to try to educate anyone. This is just really to start a conversation about getting out there and voting, because it's important, right? It's very important for us to be a part of that process. Um, but another thing that's important, um, oh, and I want to just point this out. If you go to faircount.org/vote, you can register for your mail-in ballot, right? You can register for that, and remember, um, you need to do that before tomorrow. So you need to make sure that you uh, doing that. So okay. So the mail-in ballots need to be received by 7 p.m. today. Well, January 5th, um, which is election day, right? We need to have that in before then so that they can be counted um, with everybody else. Um, so definitely make sure that you're doing that. If you have also another good thing about this site is you can go there and you can um, you can check out ways of getting involved with the process. You can volunteer. You can look up, census information. You can, look up programs that they have. It's all kinds of, it's a wealth of information there that you can look at that's not just pertaining to, you know, just the vote, right? Because being an involved citizen is a year-round job. That's something you should always be doing, and it's not just in politics, not in politics in that way, right? Which brings me to my last point that I'm gonna make because I'm only gonna make this about 30 minutes long, but my last point that I want to make about community, right? Um, you know, Part of this is being active in the community, being in the community, doing things um, to help raise the awareness of of the people in the community of their power, right? And their place in society. Because sometimes, we don't know um, that it's something that we need to be taking more seriously. It's not, it's something sometimes we don't know how powerful it is, right? So it's always that education piece where we have to be teaching these things and coming up with these community programs that like I said, I saw if you go to there, they have programs that black men count, technologists, all kinds of stuff that you can be a part of and get involved in, um, and make a difference, right? Because again, that's one thing, that's definitely a big thing because you're talking about, the structure of power, right? So if you can affect change on that level, that's great. But the real place where the change happens is on the grassroots level, right? The people. The people are the ones who have to act because you can have a law that says something, but if the people don't go with that, then guess what? It does nobody any good, or vice versa, right? If there's a law that is against, and we don't go with that, then hey, we not you're basically taking your stand you know, uh, as they say, you. Uh, I'm gonna read this quote here for you. Um, Never ever be afraid to make some good noise, to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble, right? I mean, sometimes it comes down to that, right? Um, Again, shout out to shop I am Ebony for the metal bookmarks, dope. And yeah, I mean, you know, you want to make sure that you thinking about that, like you have to make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do in your community as well as doing your part on a larger scale as well. And that's part of organization and community, right? So you come together with that and you start making change on all levels, then you're doing something powerful then, right? You can really steer steer the train to somewhere better, to a better place. You know what I mean? That's what it's gonna take. So that's why I wanted to talk about that. That's why I wanted to come in and have this time to do that. I appreciate it, bro. Glad my brother Vladimir is in there. He said the sweater is hard, bro. I appreciate you. Um, you know, yeah. So I'm really just trying to make awareness to that so that we understand the importance of this. That's the election that's coming up, because that's where, a lot of the power resides is in these levels of government. Um, so that's where we need to be. That's what we need to be focusing on, outside of on that level. But when it comes to the community level, that's 365. You should be practicing these things 365. And we got some more information coming up soon. I'll be giving out and be sharing with you all about some programs that we'll be a part of, and we'll have going on in the community that will definitely be a part of making sure that people understand um, their their place in society. And again, like I said, the whole point to this podcast is, about being a man and becoming a better man. So, um, you know, and a man knows that his journey is never over. You always striving to reach a higher level. So you don't ever stop. So it's never like, okay, well, I'm here now. I'm good. That's not how that works. You can always be better, and you should always think that, and you should always strive for that, because you can always be better. Um, and again, thank you all for supporting and joining me on this Tuesday on my birthday. Just let y'all know I'm out here working too. So, that's just how it is. But I definitely wanted to bring y'all some value today, and hopefully, when you go into your holidays, and you spending time with your family, you can have these conversations with them, and y'all can get together, organize, and think about some things that you can do in your community to help people, right? To bring that awareness to people, and to make sure that you're doing your part, right? Um, because it's not on one person. We can't. That's too much to ask of one person. You know what I mean? We all have to chip in and do our part. So, with that being said, I'd like to say thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for continuously supporting me. Please like the page, share it, share this video, share any video that you see that you feel might resonate with people that you know. Go to my podcast on um, any platform and listen to it as well. And definitely give me feedback. Let me know what you think about the podcast. Let me know some topics you want to talk about that I can research and that we can come through and we can have some discussions about, and join me in the chat and talk about it. I would love that as well. So until next time, y'all have a great holiday. Happy Kwanzaa, Merry Christmas, you know, Happy Hanukkah.